doing some research on this that your Wikipedia page has been deleted.
Thank heaven.
Thank heaven.
Yeah.
Are you going Trent Reznor? You don't want to be associated with...
No, I think the Wikipedia page was just a little absurd. I think the people who find out stuff about me, it's just like, it's kind of ridiculous, you know, like, oh, he owns World of Warcraft, so he's got to play it. You know, what's his favorite character?
Though. It didn't say that. Here's the screenshot from it, dude.
No, it honestly, it has said it before, and it's a little creepy.
That's very basic. There's hardly anything there. It just says you were in the band, this, and that's it.
Yeah, well, thank heaven somebody took that crap off.
I just wonder if you should be insulted because it says it was deleted because it lacks the sources to prove its notability.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on, if this we're talking about a site that freaking people can go up and post whatever they want about me, you know, like, I don't know, like I've done, I know I've regret doing certain things in the past as far as media.
Really?
I mean, I did something with PETA. On Taste of Chaos 07, I believe it was, with 30 Seconds to Mars and The Used.
Okay.
And I did it because I went vegan for like a week on the tour, but I was vegetarian for half the tour, and I just wanted to see how it would change me and how like I would feel performing without eating real food, you know? And not that,
and how fast you'll collapse,
and how fast I'll collapse. So I was like, you know what, like and at that time they were doing the KFC thing, like promoting like donate at KFC. And
right? That thing. Yeah.
I haven't eaten at KFC in like 10 years, strictly because I hate KFC and I think it tastes gross.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk crap on KFC all day long. But I told them in the interview, and they chopped it up. They took this part out, which was like, this is just a temporary thing. This is not like a legit serious thing. So when they took it out, I was like, well, that sucks. You know, I was watching the interview and they're hyping me up to be like some huge hardcore vegetarian vegan. And I'm like, I'm not that. I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat my dad's steak because it tastes delicious. Like, it's going to be awesome. But, you know, I do regret not eating steak prior to leaving that tour, because right from that tour we went to Europe, and I ended up going back to eating meat, and that was the worst decision of my life because I ended up getting sick and going to the hospital the first day or the second show basically.
Whoa.
of being in the UK for what was it? Give It a Name. And I got like super sick, spent a whole day in the hospital with like 13 IV bags in my arm.
What country was that?
It was in the UK.
Oh, it was in the
Yeah.
UK. Okay, so
But it was for free.
It was free.
It was free. It was great.
Right, I
free
guess.
healthcare, but
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
so they had IVs
sucked.
and you. How long did it take you to get recouped?
It took me about 2 days because of
What, food poisoning?
it had to have been food
Or like-
poisoning, because I was seriously like rolling on the ground. Like they had to put me in a stretcher and like stretch me through the crowd to get to like the.
You collapsed on stage?
No, I pretty much, I didn't collapse. I just like kind of keeled over and was just like, oh, my stomach hurts. And they finally just like took me down from the backstage through the crowd, and kids were like, you did great, high-fiving me as I'm like dying on the stretcher. It was crazy, but yeah, I mean, it is a healthy lifestyle, but for me, I'm just like, you know what, it's just not what I believe in, like not something I can truly follow. But you know, it's almost like a religion, but it's, I don't know, it can be kind of crazy,
Right.
but I'm a meat eater, man.
So what else was like some of the strangest things that have been reported about you on the internet?
The World of Warcraft one was good. I own the game, but I've never played it. I got it as a present for my girlfriend because I love playing video games on computers. My dad owned a computer store when I was growing up, so
Really?
it was like, yeah,
Okay.
it was awesome. All the dudes from his office, from his computer store, would just stay after hours, and we'd hook up all the computers and we'd just play video games. And it was just like,
Man.
yeah, as a little kid, you're like, you know, 8 to 11 years old, you know, I'm playing video games with 40-year-old men, and I'm having the greatest time of my life.
And that was mid-90s. It was like because you were born in 85, so that would have been about 93, 94.
It was like 93 to basically 2000, because I moved to San Diego in 2000, and that's when the computer store got shut down due to what was it, Staples. Thank you, Staples.
Oh, great. Great.
But I mean, we live in a small town, so Staples just came in. And it was just like it shut down everybody. Everything else was just like, oh well, no more computer stores.
Well, you're from Vista, right?
I'm from Vista, but originally I grew up like east of LA, northeast of LA, in this little town called Ridgecrest. It was this little like crap hole of a city that had the only thing that kept it alive was this naval base out in the middle of the desert, and they just tested these like the Sidewinder missile. My mom's boss invented, the key part of it. And it was wild. Like growing up there was sweet, but if I were living there now, I'd want to kill myself.
Why?
Because it's crappy.
You're
out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
There's nothing to do but like drink beer and go up into the mountains and shoot, lizards and rocks and like. There's nothing to do.
And listen to them test things.
Yeah, and listen to them test bombs and, feel the sonic booms. There was one year where it was the earthquake capital of the world, strictly because of, like, the bombs would drop and the Richter scale would just, it would go up and down. And then the bombs our main street was on the San Andreas Fault. Mm-hmm. So as soon as the bomb would fall, it'd trigger an earthquake, and then, like, the whole town would shake at, like, a 6.5. Earthquake. And the day I left actually to move to San Diego from Ridgecrest, there was like one of the gnarliest earthquakes happened in my entire life. It was great.
So the town is on the San Andreas Fault.
It pretty much sits like on the middle of the San Andreas
And this is
Fault.
where they're going to test nuclear weapons and things.
Yeah,
and
they just
stuff.
test bombs and weird stuff, man. It
sounds like there's a left hand not really talking to the right hand on that coordination there. Of all places to be doing that.
No.
Yeah, there really isn't a whole hell of a lot about you online, as much as you're well, okay. But no, I mean seriously, like I didn't know that about your father. What were you like? There's a little bit about your high school years, and how you got into the band, but I mean prior to that, I mean what kind of kid were you when you were growing up?
I was a little desert rat, man. Like I would run around. If you look at my parents, let me just put it this way. If you look at my parents and then you look at pictures of me when I was 8 till I was 13, mm-hmm. I look nothing like my parents. I'm dark skinned. I'm darker than half of the Mexicans that lived in the town. And I look more Mexican than the Mexican kids that lived there. So it was just really awkward for my parents growing up. They're like, "Where did you come from? Like, who are you? Are you even my child?" But I mean, it was a good time. I loved living in a small town, growing up, and when Blink-182 got huge, and they became my favorite band. At the time, Mark was like the hometown hero because he actually lived in Ridgecrest for a while.
Oh, okay.
So, he was just like.
Did he work at the naval base?
No, I don't know. I think his mom worked for the naval base or something. I don't know. Like
there'll be a Blink fan out there.
Yeah, there's some crazy
okay.
Blink-182 fan out there that knows, but yeah, like he was just like the hometown hero. So all of the kids in the town were like, there was no guitar shop, so nobody could start a band, which was pretty sweet if you think about it now, because everybody does have a band. So it was just like you were listening to, we were talking about it at dinner. You were listening to America's Top 40, and like that was it. Like that's all you really had in any station that you picked up from LA. Mm-hmm. So you weren't really like, I'd never heard of hardcore. Like hardcore music. I had no idea what that was until I moved, and then once I moved to San Diego, it was just like this world of music hit me, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm so glad I left this small crappy town. But yeah, I was just a weird little kid. I played baseball.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's weird. No, but I mean, even like my musical upbringing, I listened to like Tracy Chapman and Styx and Dire Straits and James Taylor.
Some of those were your parents'
Yeah,
bands, if I read correctly.
Yeah, my parents loved that music, and that's just what I grew up listening to. My parents like put headphones on me as a little kid, and I would just kind of bounce up and down to Dire Straits because that's just, I don't know, that's just what I did. And so I kind of started young. For the longest time, my dad played guitar, and he would play guitar when he'd get home from work, and he'd sing us to sleep practically, and he would play Neil Young songs.
Wow.
And so for the longest time, I thought my dad was really Neil Young. I thought he sounds exactly like him. I've been trying to get him and his buddy to record some stuff, because it's all covers, but it's seriously like he sounds like Neil Young, and it's great. It's absolutely wonderful. So
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it really would be.
Or is he just shy and he just
No, he's just, I think he's kind of vicariously living through me, and yet, he still plays the guitar pretty avidly. So like I said, I'm trying to get him and his buddy to come over to my house and just like set up a couple.
He comes to all your shows. I mean, is he?
Yeah, he's a huge supporter of what I'm doing now, and my parents weren't at first. At first, it was
they never are. I mean,
yeah,
they frequently aren't. I should say that.
Well, I mean, when you're a 18-year-old kid and you're dealing with people who are 25 at the time. I had no 25-year-old friends. I knew nobody that was 25, and when I jumped into Saosin, it was just like this world, like my bubble just burst, and like I had no bubble anymore. But I mean, it was good for my parents to be apprehensive at first, but once they came out to the first real show that we played in San Diego, their minds changed very quickly. They were like, "Holy crap! Like, if this is what you can do every single night, and if you can actually impact another person's life,
right,
like the way that music impacted your life, then." As long as you're not writing songs that are, detrimental to society, or what people would think are detrimental to society, like Manson gets it all the time, and like, I think his comeback to the Columbine shooting was great. It was absolutely wonderful. But I think as soon as they realized that I could actually make an impact on some kid's life for the better, possibly save some kid's life, because I mean, music when I moved was all I did. All I did was listen to music, and it pretty much saved my life. So if I could do the same and return the favor, I feel like in their minds, as soon as they saw me, they were just like, okay, we're going to support him. We're going to do everything we can.
So many fans say your song saved my life, and the musician always like, and they said, well, then the fans said they were down in the dumps, and because their teacher yelled at them and they were going to kill themselves, and then thus they put on my song on it. Now, when a musician says that music saved their lives, I never really hear them explain that.
Yeah,
So so what's your fan story? Like who, how?
When I first moved to San Diego, I moved at like the worst time ever.
Was that before? It was before you joined the band, or after the?
Before I joined the band.
Okay, all right, okay.
I moved there in 2000, or in '99. So I had like all of high school to go to.
So how does the story about you finding out about
it happened in high school?
So you were still back.
I was still
home.
No, I mean I was still in San Diego. I was still home in San Diego.
Did the whole family move to San Diego?
The whole family moved to San Diego in '99.
Okay.
And
I'm better now.
So basically, like we moved to San Diego in '99, which was the worst time ever because I was just going into high school, and I got really, really depressed, and ended up losing like all of my baby fat and just becoming like really skinny for a long time. And my parents they thought like we should just send him back. Like we should send him back to where we used to live. And eventually I met a couple friends who played guitar, and through them they got me into music and into going to shows. And I had a friend, one of my best friends, started taking me to like these local shows with local San Diego bands, and through that, like, I feel like if he wasn't there and if these bands weren't there in his life to get me to go with him, like, I'm not saying I would have killed myself, but I definitely, wouldn't have had as many dreams and ambitions of pursuing music as a career. So, bands like when I first got into my own and started finding my own bands, my own style, I guess you could say, like I got into Yellow Card, and that sounds really weird to a lot of people because they're like, Yellow Card, like what? But I got into Yellow Card Yellow Card's very first record, and that was just something that like ended up helping me find more friends. That was like, hey, check this out. Like, what do you think? Like, would you ever want to go to a show with me? Like, see them play? And I remember seeing them play like before they were even signed, before they put out, you know, their big record release, and just being like a true fan, and that's what I lived for, to go see them play. I lived to go see those shows in San Diego, and you know, I feel like that's pretty much what saved me and got me motivated to, you know, actually live, you know, I guess day to day at the time. Because there was, like I said, there was like a 6-month period where I was just like, you know, sleeping on the floor. I wouldn't sleep on my bed. I just, nothing felt right. Yeah, like nothing felt right, you know. It was just a really hard time, you know, when you move from a small town of 75,000 people into an area where there's, you know, millions of people, right? And, you know, everybody seems bigger and everybody seems faster, so to speak. Like, you know, it was just a difficult thing for a 14-year-old kid to go through. So, music was the only outlet that I feel like I could take, or I you know, I felt like normal.
So what did you do? I mean, you obviously, you guys going to shows and stuff like that. I mean, what else did you do? I mean, it was playing with friends,
yeah, it was just,
instruments and stuff.
It was just playing, you know, going to shows, and through going to shows, you know, I started playing my guitar, or my dad's guitar, more, and eventually started a band with a couple friends in high school, and just started some really crappy garage band. And
were you always the singer?
No. There was actually one of my best friends who's still a great musician and great singer. You know, he was the one who was always singing, and I would always sing the harmonies because I have the higher voice, and I always thought higher harmonies sounded cool for whatever reason. So I would sing all the harmonies, and he would sing all the main vocal lines, and we ended up towards the end of that band, I guess you could say, kind of switching off, singing like he would sing half the songs, I would sing half the songs, and you know, and when I was singing, he was singing harmonies, and vice versa. So, you know, that's kind of what I did throughout my entire high school career, I guess you could say. And
did that band
went nowhere.
I mean, didn't play any
real
parties,
shows.
nothing.
We played like high school parties, you know.
What was the name of the band?
Birthday parties. Mormon in the Middle.
Oh, that's them.
That's Mormon in the Middle.
All right, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And that band actually turned out to be through pop punk kind of died. I feel like around the time that like Thrice was getting big, and you know,
Thursday and all that.
Thursday and everybody started playing like quote unquote metal, you know, just like really cheap, easy metal.
Sure.
And then we kind of followed suit, but we did it in a joking way. We kind of took like the Aquabats approach to everything and just joked about it. We're like, why is everybody doing this? They're just playing like fake metal. They're just screaming when they want to scream. It's not even cool, like whatever. So we just kind of took our band and we're just like, hey, you want to come play with us? And we got like more people. We added people into the band, and then instead of writing real songs, we just got up and jammed.
Okay.
And then I would just like scream random crap here and there, and it was just like, we got off stage and people were like, that was awesome. We're like, yeah, sure. That was not awesome. That was the worst crap ever.
So that band name
was Stamp Out Detroit. That's what I guess you could say Mormon in the Middle became. But you know, I still it's weird. It's really weird with Mormon in the Middle. I still listen to those songs. I still want to record those songs over again, because I feel like that is an era that like of my life and of my musical career that I'm like still kind of bummed that I never got a good recording of. As much of a joke as it was, and as much of a, you know, in high school as nobody really took it seriously, I would still like just to take it seriously for once and sit down for a week and just record. Just have fun.
Did the name, I guess, being assuming, come from?
Yeah, we were playing very awkward. We had no band name. My guitar player is this, the one who didn't sing, or it still is. He's a Christian. He's born again a Christian, and we were playing like Keep Away, and he would always joke about me being Mormon. He'd always be like, "Yo, you're the Mormon kid," whatever. And I ended up in the middle. And he was like, haha, it's the Mormon in the middle. And everybody just kind of stopped and we're like, all right, let's go back to band practice. We are now called Mormon in the middle. And that's kind of how it came
probably
about.
made the coolest flyers, I will admit, with that name.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
We're
like, we got a built-in fan base,
Did your parents, I mean, were they, there's people of faith that kind of go from those that are follow it, pun intended, religiously, and then it kind of gradiates all the way down to those people that are in it but in name only. And so, did they have a problem with that at all?
No, I mean,
sometimes the generations don't get the joke.
No, they definitely got it, but I mean, they definitely understood that like we're going nowhere. This is just a fun little thing for me to do in high school.
Okay.
They thought once high school was over, I was just gonna give up.
And what did they want you to become?
Anything that I wanted. They
cool.
They didn't really know what I was gonna do. Because everybody else was getting good grades, meanwhile I was like failing. And it came down to like the last day before graduation that I actually found out that I was gonna walk and actually gonna graduate. So it was like, I took high school as a joke, but I took music seriously, even though I had a joke band name and a joke band.
Got it.
I was like, let's play shows, let's do this, let's record, let's save money, let's do everything I could do. I was just like, I was so motivated on this crappy band that it eventually led me to want to pursue music as a career. So
back to Stamp Out Detroit. Yeah. Where did that name came from?
Again, boredom. We were looking at this book that my guitar player's older brother's band was looking at and got their band name from, I think. And their band's called Get Back Loretta, and they're still doing it. And it's still, this dude's amazing. It's still a great band. I think everybody should check him out. Little shout out there. But we were just like looking through, we're like, hey, they found their band name here. Why can't we? So we're looking at it, and it's this book, this Beatles book. And we were looking at it, and then, that was like the title of a chapter. And we're like, that's cool. Let's use that, and it was just, again, us being the idiots that we were and never taking anything serious. It was like, well, if we're gonna have a joke band, we might as well just have this stupid name. So, we ended up recording like 2 songs, and they're the worst songs in the world. Because, like I said, it's just like them spazzing, and then me just like spazzing on the microphone. It was really dumb. It was really dumb, and probably one of the worst musical career. I hope that never gets leaked because
now it will.
Terrible. Oh yeah.
Now that you said it.
Some fan from like way back when that saw me, and it was like one of 10 people watching, that actually, the one person who bought it's gonna be like, I still have that, and I'm totally gonna leak that now.
Yeah.
And I'm so
start
screwed.
a little indie label and put it up on iTunes and make a fortune.
Yeah, we can just delete that right
now. They probably already did it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we get to the story then about because the story is that you had heard Saosin before you saw them.
I actually, weird story.
I mean, you'd never seen them before you joined the band.
Before I joined the band.
Yeah, and then being in the high school, and your house was next to the high school.
Yeah.
Is all that true?
Yeah, my house was like legitimately walking distance from the high school.
Which is unfortunate.
Which is unfortunate because it's a really crappy area.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but basically, like, I would drive to high school even though I could walk. Just because I was like, I wanted to be cool. I wanted my own parking spot. I was like, whatever. I want my car there. And because I ditched so much.
What did you drive?
I drove a Dodge Caravan, and we called it the Turtle because it never moved. It moved so slow. Like, I delivered pizzas in that thing. I had no back seats. All I had was blankets and pillows, and my car was never locked. So what would happen is I would ditch class and I'd just go sleep in my car, but everybody else knew that my car was like the safe place. So I would ditch my class, and there would be like 3 other people laying in my car, and I'd be like, scoot over. Give me some space. Yeah, it was like a commune on campus. And so basically what happened was one day I had heard of Saosin through my buddy Tyson. And I became a huge fan, and I only showed like 5 other people.
Well, and they had the
in
EP out by then, right?
And they had the EP out by
Translating
then.
the name. Okay, yeah.
And you know, Southern California at the time, Saosin just blew up, but it blew up in a way that like only the cool kids knew about Saosin, and only the cool kids wanted to keep it that way.
Got it.
And so one day I was in my English class, which I failed miserably. Now I'm a singer and a lyricist. Really bad.
As long as it is in complete sentences, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I was in my English class one day and like head down on my desk, just trying to pass out. But I was singing a Saosin song, and right next to me was one of my good buddies in another band in at my high school, and he was like, "Dude, you know the singer of Saosin quit, right?" And I looked at him. I just sat up. My eyes, blew up, huge, grew wide, and I was like, "No way!" And I had remembered reading something, like 2 months prior, because they were supposed to start that tour with. They're supposed to start a tour with Story of the Year. Around San Diego, and so it was supposed to be one of the first dates, but I gave my tickets to my friend, and Mike Hem actually replaced Saosin on that Story of the Year tour. Weird story. And I gave it to my friend. I was like, "Here, go. I don't even want to go see it now that Saosin's not playing." But I had thought that Anthony had something similar to what Daryl has, and how Daryl just can't ever really tour,
right?
Which is unfortunate. But I thought that it was a similar situation where he just couldn't tour. He couldn't, he wasn't healthy or something. And so I never really kept up with the internet side of things, and I didn't really read it fully. I just read that they weren't touring. And he was like, "The singer quit." And I was like, "No way." And I immediately raised my hand in class, and the teacher let me go to the bathroom, and I just grabbed all my stuff. As if that wasn't suspicious enough. She didn't care. So I just got up and bailed, went to my car, and then just flew out of that parking lot. There was security guards like chasing me, like, "Stop!" The next day I'm coming to school, I'm like super scared that they're gonna stop me.
Did they detention?
Yeah, they would give you detention and stuff if you bailed.
Did you get it for that?
No, they didn't catch me, which was awesome. And I went home. And I sent everybody in the band an email, including Anthony. And I was like, "Yo," I sent, to the band, I was like, "Yo, are you guys looking for a new singer? Like, what's the deal? Where are you guys based out of?"
Hold on a second.
No, it's all good.
My bad.
All right.
Let's back it up just a little bit.
Okay, so basically, like I said, I went home, or, ditched school. I went home, sent everybody an email, including Anthony, and what happened is I sent the dudes in the band, I was like, "Are you guys looking for a new singer? Like, what's up? Are you guys still a band?" Because with most bands nowadays, it's just like, they're together 6 months or a year, and then they break up, and they start new bands and whatever. So I was like, "Are you guys looking for a singer? Are you guys still a band?" All this stuff. And then I sent Anthony an email. I was like, "Yo, did you quit? Like, is this for real? Are my eyes deceiving me?" And never heard back from Anthony, but I got a.
What'd you do? Go through their MySpace, or you go?
I just went to their website.
Under the website, okay.
And they had like, it was like Bo at Saosin and
got it,
whatever.
right. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I just started emailing everybody, and I got a response from Bo, and I was like, "Yo, just tell me what address I can send a demo," and come to find out, they lived an hour north of me, so I hit him back, and I was like, "Just let me come try out in person, like, trust me, I'm a good singer, like, whatever." And he emailed me back. He's like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore. I've tried out way too many crappy singers for this band, and you need to send in a tape if you want to."
Because this all happened like it was reported about 6 months after you found out. About 6 months after Anthony had quit. Roughly?
Roughly. I mean, it was before I had graduated from high school.
Okay,
and
all right.
He had quit like around January, like beginning of January.
All right, so maybe 4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah. So he hit me back. I tried talking him into letting me go up there to record and try out in person, but I finally, it came down to the wire, and for me, and I was like, it's now or never. I ended up with like bronchitis and like all this crazy stuff, and phlegm in my throat, and I was like, it's now or never. I got to do it. So I set up my dad's computer, recorded it through the speakers, actually had a mic in like this little like mason jar, and I just set it there and I bent over, on the guitar, and I was just like trying to sing and play the guitar at the same time, and I'm a horrible guitar player. And I sent it in, and I
Now, what did you put on that? There's some there's discrepancies about what is on that demo.
The only song that got released was, thank heavens, the only song that sounded good on that demo. I recorded Mookie's Last Christmas,
right,
and then I recorded 7 Years and Third Measurement in C straight.
So there were songs off of Translating the Name on that.
No,
no,
those were great songs off the record, but I recorded them. That my voice was so trash that it was just like it came out sounding so bad that by the end of Third Measurement in C, like I couldn't sing anymore, and I was just like I had to stop it, and then I just like, no, why not just record it? And I'm like, I'm sorry, dudes, like I'm really sick right now. Give me a break. If you like what you hear, whatever, send it back or hit me up. And all I did was leave my first name and my phone number on the CD, and I sent that in.
Right.
And they called me back, and they were like, yo, we need to know if this is really you, because, yeah, we just need to know. Come to find out, they thought it was Anthony playing a joke on him. And I think one of the dudes ended up calling Anthony and being like, you are a dick, dude. Like, how can you send in a demo through somebody else? Like, you're a jerk, you know? And
didn't Bo, like, fess up?
Yeah,
he was the one that.
Yeah, he was the one that like called Anthony, and like, you know, they thought it was Anthony, and I was like, I'm honored, you know, like Anthony's one of my favorite singers. I love the dude now personally, but back in the day, it was just like, you know, that's what I listened to. That's what I was singing, you know, from every single day. I'd just go home, put on Translating the Name. After, you know, I downloaded it, didn't buy it, never saw them, never could buy it. So I would just sit there and I'd sing it in my room, and that's just what I did. And finally I got the call from Chris. He's like, we need you to come up tonight and practice. We need to meet you in person. So I drove up there just looking like a sketchy dude, and they met me in person. They're like, we can work with you. Yeah, I mean, you're good looking around the face region, and we can fix your style. And they definitely didn't fix the style. But I mean, you know, it worked. You know, they conned me into tracking I Can Tell, and like after it was recorded and after it was sent to Smart Punk to be put on the Smart Punk compilation, they told me like, yeah, we're putting it on the CD. It's already out. Like, it's already going to come out in a week. So I was like, no way. You know, ran to my Hot Topic and bought it immediately. I was like, I'm on this. That's my voice. You know, I went home and took it to my mom.
No contracts.
Like, no contracts. No, it was just like, we need you to come in and sing this. And I did. And they put it on a record. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm in the band yet, but this is great. It was awesome.
Wasn't part of it, though, that you were on your way back home and that you called them or something, and you were kind of like, am I in this or not? And because I thought part of the story was that you initially thought that they would just want to see what you looked like, and that was the end of it. And they were like, yeah, that's good enough. And you're like, well, I just drove all the way up here for.
Yeah, no, I drove up there and they were finishing practice, and I thought I was going to get to sing some songs. And, you know, I thought I was going to get to sing the songs that I loved. And, you know, I got up there and they were like, oh, we're taking it down. And I was like, no, like, no, play some stuff for me. I just want to sit in the room and listen to you guys play music, you know, like. It was, they were so special to me that that's all I really cared about doing. I just wanted to see them play the music that I love, even with or without vocals. So they ended up putting the guitars back on, playing the songs with me. And then driving home, I called Chris from my mom's cell phone because I had to borrow my mom's cell phone because she was like, if you don't call by 9 o'clock, you're grounded, you know, type of thing. And I'm like, Mom, come on, give me a break. Like, I'm going up to hang out with my favorite band of all time, you know? And, you know, so I ended up giving him a call on the way back down. And I was just like, hey, you know, thanks for letting me come up and try out. And thanks for, you know, giving me a shot. Like, I don't really know what's going to happen. They're like, we need you to come up tomorrow. I'm like, dude, like, you're killing me on gas, dude. Come on, give me a break. And so I ended up going up and recording because they wanted to see. They were like, we need to see how you sound recorded. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I went up and recorded. And then, like I said, they put it out on the Smart Punk comp. And they're like, now we need to see if you can tour. So they took me out, and they took me out on Warped Tour for 7 days. And I sang one song at 3 shows, and Phil Sneed from Story of the Year sang the rest of the set.
Okay, that's that tour. All right,
yeah, it was that. That's what happened. And then, so I sang one song 3 times over like a 6-day period. And my mom came out to Warped Tour, saw me play. You know, all my friends were at Warped Tour, sitting at the front, like, you know, cheering me on. I was so nervous that the first day I just sounded like crap. And then they came back to me and were like, dude, you sounded like crap. And I was like, I'm sorry. I've never been a frontman. They were like, are you serious? You've never been a frontman? You've never just held a mic in your hand? I was like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, just sing. From now on, all you have to worry about is just singing. And, you know, with that behind me, they took me out on a full tour where I was singing the full set from start to finish. And they're like, we really need to see if you can last a month and a half on the road. And so I went back out on tour with them, and I still wasn't in the band, though they were promoting me as.
Which tour was that?
That we did a tour with Strung Out.
Oh, okay,
Love
so
is
the
Red.
Strung Out tour. All right,
yeah,
okay.
and a band called Last of the Famous. So we did that tour, and Strung Out, and me being a pop punk kid and a punk kid in general, like, I loved Strung Out. I loved anything that came off of Epitaph and Fat Records, and that was just like the end all be all for me. So to be able to tour with Strung Out was like the greatest feeling and greatest thing in the world. So I got to watch one of my favorite bands play, and then, you know, I got to play with one of my favorite bands, and then when I got home, they were like, here's $300, you know, you did good. We start practicing again in 2 weeks. And I'm like,
really, conditional love we got going on here, right?
Am I in the band? You know, and so finally, I asked him in person. You know, like everybody was in the room. I was like, am I in this band? Like, because honestly, like, I either want to be in or I want to go do something else. Like, you know, I'm making more money delivering pizzas than I am touring for a month and a half. So, what is it like? Am I gonna make Saosin my main focus, or am I gonna go home and have to work a job and do all these things that keep me afloat? And they finally were like, yeah, you're the frontman, you're the singer, you are the leader of this band. And I was like, all right, cool. Finally, after like almost a year of touring, or a year of being in the band, I was like, I finally felt comfortable enough to be like, I'm the singer, I'm the replacement, and I'm not just a replacement, but I am where this band goes, you know. You know, so it was kind of a crazy ride that first year, but you know, going from playing from Strung Out, playing in front of like 800 kids max, to playing in front of 14,000 on the first Taste of Chaos with Mike Hem and the Used at Long Beach Arena was a trip. Like, losing my mind, standing in front of 14,000 people, just not knowing what to do, and just being like, just sing, Cove, just sing. Like, that's all I was thinking, is just sing. Don't worry about moving, just sing. And of course, like me being a spaz, I tripped over myself and, you know, ran like a crazy man all over the stage. So it was fun. It was fun for that first ride, but you know, it was definitely like knots in my stomach every single day, because I didn't know if it was going to be the last. You know, they didn't really tell me that. So very odd.
We take, I want to pick it up right from there when we come back. We take 2 music breaks. Because of, why don't you pick two bands, a song from each, that were your staples back in high school?
Dogwood Autobiographies was a song that they were the first band that I actually went with my friend to go see at a church. I snuck into the show. I snuck into a church show, and the church was like funding this, and like, you know, there was money going to it for a cause, and I ended up sneaking in, and I feel really, really bad now for doing that. But they were one of the first bands that I saw. They played with NIV that night, and my best friend ended up like breaking 2 of his fingers.
Yeah, that was
really,
God.
Really random.
God punished you guys that night.
Circle pitting became like my most favorite thing. I've seen Dogwood a bunch of times, and still one of my very favorite bands. And then if you could play Craig's brother, Epis Dumbology, it's a really good song from a really great band that's making their comeback, and they are labelless, and they are 30 years old, and I still love them to death, and I still want to tour with them. And yeah, that song to me, they're like they're somewhat of a political punk rock band, but they have the singer Ted has just the most crazy voice, and it was one of those things for me in high school that just kind of changed my outlook on singing. And just like Anthony changed my outlook on singing, Ted did the same thing. So I'm a huge fan of them. If you could play that song, that would be dope. It's from the EP that they put out, called Epistemology. I think that's what it's called. Pretty sure. But sweet nonetheless. So stoked on those punk bands.
I found fascinating the more I was doing research on you, and it's almost out of a something that could have been like a sequel or something to Almost Famous, but just from a slightly different point of view, is that first tour, the one you did with Strung Out. How the new lead singer was calling the former lead singer.
Yeah.
When he felt like he wanted to quit and give up, and he was trying to find his own self-confidence, and getting advice from the former lead singer.
I still do that.
Still
to this day. Crazy, huh? You're just
no,
it looks like your mind is blown.
No, it's not crazy, because I know you guys don't hate each other, but I'm just saying that it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost out of a screenplay.
It is pretty wild to think about, you know, even from my perspective, like being a fan of Anthony and being a friend of Anthony is a little strange. That first tour that we did with Strung Out, he came out to the Philadelphia show, and somehow I think he got my number through Alex, our drummer, and he ended up calling me. I think later after that show, and before that, or right after we had got off stage on that night, excuse me, he had come up to me in somewhat of a drunken stupor, and he was just like, "You sing those songs better than I could have ever sang them. It's your band. You sing those songs how you want to sing them, and take, you know, he basically like passed the reins, you know, and that's something that I will always appreciate from him, and that I will always, you know, hold dear to me, because, you know, it was up until that point of being with Saosin, I really didn't feel like I was appreciated as much as I felt like I should have been appreciated, at least from the guys in the band, and not in the sense that like I'm some egotistical prick, but just like, you know, it would have been nice to be like, "You did great tonight," or like, "Hey, I think you just need to calm down at this part and focus a little bit more," because I was losing my mind. Like, I had no idea what I was doing on stage, and every single night, whether it be on Warped Tour or the Strung Out tour or even Taste of Chaos, like I was watching the frontmen do what they do, and I was trying to pick up on little things that they did that I liked, because like I said, I've never been a frontman, and I'm not as charismatic, I don't feel, and I don't feel like I'm not as crazy is not the best word, but, you know, just kind of, I'm kind of awkward. I'm kind of an awkward guy to watch, and I feel like I'm not as awkward anymore. Yeah. But at the time, I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing. I remember John Reese, who managed the Used on that first tour. He pulled me aside, and he wanted to manage us at the time, but that really has nothing to do with the story, and I don't even know why I said that. But he pulled me aside, and he took me back up to like the top rafters of one of the Taste of Chaoses, and he was just like, "Cove, watch Bert tonight from here. I'll come get you at the very end of the show." He's like, "Just watch what he does." And, you know, I remember like another instance on that tour, like Gerard pulled me aside and was just like, "You're a great singer. We all know you're a great singer. You just need to sing. You know, you're not singing. You're freaking out." And, you know, between Anthony and Gerard telling me, you know, that I can achieve greatness,
right?
It really calmed my nerves, and it really made me feel like these guys who I look up to appreciate me for what I do. And it was a really difficult thing to overcome, but once I did feel comfortable, I feel like I'm not, like I said, I'm not as awkward anymore. I feel like I'm not as not the scared little kid that I was, because you know, when you're 19 standing on stage with your favorite band, it'd be like, you know, I don't know. It'd be, what's your favorite band, you know? It's like, it'd be like you singing for your favorite band and you not really knowing what to do because you feel so out of place. And that's really...
Plus, they weren't your songs.
Yeah, they weren't my songs. I had no ownership. And though Anthony did tell me, like, these are your songs, like, they really weren't, you know? I still at times feel like I'm singing karaoke, even though it's the funnest karaoke I'll ever be able to sing, because I love these songs probably as much as he did, and he does when he was writing, and he does still now when he listens to them. But you know, it was a difficult thing for me to live up to in the fans' eyes, and I feel like I never will. And you know, but
were there any of those songs, any of the 5 songs that were off that EP, their first EP they did, that Anthony did, that to this day you still just feel like you're just not hitting it? It's probably the one that really all
of them. I mean, it's tough because you see, like, I'm a super fan. I have a lot of videos of Anthony singing with Saosin because I never got to see them live.
Okay.
I would always just download off.
But would that make you want to start to emulate him?
It did, and that was kind of the problem that I was running into, is that I feel like a lot of people were calling me out on being like, he's just trying to act like Anthony, and like, right. I really was, and it was a problem, and I probably shouldn't be saying that, but at the same time, like I said, I was never a front man. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was just going off of what I was seeing through him and videos, through seeing what Gerard did, and I'm in no way, shape, or form in Gerard's league, because he's a performer when it comes to the stage. And, you know, the same thing with Bert from the U's. Like, these guys are all men that I look up to, and they do their own thing, and they've made it their own. And at the beginning of the band, I was trying to do what they did, and a lot of people were like, he's trying to do what they did. He's not trying to be himself. And it took me until the first record was released, or the first record was recorded with Howard Benson, for me to finally find myself and just be myself. Yeah. You know, I feel like that was the turning point, because once I had my own material, you know, I didn't have to worry about living up to Anthony and living up to what kids had seen in the videos of Anthony singing with Saosin. All I had to do was make those songs like the new Saosin songs with me singing them. Right.
Could you tell immediately once you got on the road with the new stuff that...
Yeah. Dude, I know where you're going with this. Like, the first show. Yeah. The first show we played, it was in San Diego. We did the CD release. And once the CD was released. Up until then, kids just were oblivious. But because we did a headlining tour before that with Envy on the Coast and a couple other bands. A couple other great, Forgive Durden and... what is his name? Hold on. The Outline. But it wasn't until the CD was released that I actually felt comfortable, because kids didn't know the material prior. Got it. So, you know, once it was released and they knew the material, that switch changed, and the Anthony songs have truly become mine. But like I said, I don't feel like I'll ever be able to live up to them, because I still want to see Anthony play 7 years with Saosin. I still want to see him, you know, screaming the beginning of Lost Symphonies with Saosin. Like, you know, I've even told the guys in my band now, and I've talked to Bo about this. I'm like, when the time comes, if the time ever does come, could you see, you know, us either touring with Circa Survive, or you guys ever just playing one reunited show with Anthony? I have no problem taking a step aside and being like, you know, being that dude who stands in the back and watches the show, because that's something that I never got to witness. That's something that I've always wanted to witness, and I feel like I was kind of gypped. And I know that I was gypped because my sister was supposed to come home one night, and I was supposed to go to the show, and I'm still pissed off about it. But
and to this day, she still doesn't get presents.
And yeah, well, I mean, and to this day, and for the rest of my life, if I don't ever get to see it happen, I'm gonna be bummed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a downer, and yet at the same time, I really appreciate, you know, the opportunity that was presented once he did leave the band, That sounds bad, but whatever.
No. But do you kind of feel like when you do the earlier stuff off that first EP, when you're even today, that in a way you're kind of doing cover songs?
Yeah, I mean a little bit, but the fact that I've played them so many times, you know, like we've always played 7 years in the set. There's never been a show where 7 years has been out of the set. So we will always continue to play 7 years because that's my personal favorite song, and that's a lot of kids' personal favorite songs from that era of Saosin. So, you know, for those kids who you know, 7 years is like 7 years is like Blink-182's Damn It. Like kids go to see Blink-182 strictly to see them play Damn It, and then they bail. You know, like I would have done it after Enema of the State was released, and I've grown to love Enema of the State. I want to see them play that whole record front to back. So
two minor notes. One is a bit of a piece of a thing from Tim Coran, who did the cover story with Anthony last year, and he said that Anthony told him that sometimes when he goes to the Saosin shows and he sits in the audience and he watches you guys, when you do the stuff from that EP, he sings along.
Yeah,
and the fans around him will start freaking out because here's Anthony Green in the audience singing the stuff off the first.
I wish he would just come and punch me in the throat and take the mic. You know, like.
Well, you guys have performed several times together. I mean, was it last year?
Yeah,
one of them.
We performed. It was either the beginning of this year or the end of last year. I cannot remember.
Because we had some pictures. It was on AP website.
It was awesome. That will go down as.
That was his solo tour,
his solo stuff. And he sang a song that was demoed, I guess you could say. Excuse me. Wow, that was demoed around when he was in Saosin. Justin, our guitar player, and Anthony.
Dr. Pepper and sushi.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper and sushi. Bad combo. Don't do it, guys. But it was a demo that was recorded with John Feldman, who we've worked with now. On this upcoming record of ours, way back in the day when Anthony was in the band, and so we sang the song "Dear Child, I've Been Trying to Reach You" together. He literally like 5 minutes before he went on, he's like, "Come up for Dear Child," and I was like, "Can I come up just at the end?" And he's like, "Yeah, just come up for the end of Dear Child." So I ran out to my car, grabbed my computer. I have Dear Child on my computer. I immediately, like, when he told me that he wanted me to do it, like, my mind went blank. I forgot all the words.
Would that been the first time you sang with him?
That was the first and the only time I've ever sang with him.
Oh, jeez.
And like I was getting to,
so
that will go down as one of the best nights.
So you got the computer out of the car.
I got the computer out of my car, came back into the venue, stole somebody's charger, put my headphones on, listened to the song about 8 times. Went and because I was missing the show, I was like, I want to go see the show. So I came here as a fan and as a friend. I got to go see the show. So I walked out and I'm standing in the back watching, and he finishes the set. He walks off stage. He comes back. He's like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, do I have to do this? Like, I don't want to murder your song. Like, this is one of my favorite songs, and I don't want to be the guy murdering it. So he's like, "Yeah, we're doing it." So he goes up, he plays another song acoustically, and then he's just like, "I want to bring somebody out. Cove, where you at?" And I was like, "Dude, you said I was going to come out at the very end of the song, you dick." Like, jerk. So I walk out on stage, and people, I mean, as a fan, like, I it sucks. Like I wish I could have just been that kid in the front row that had seen it happen. Because being a part of it, like I said, it was one of the best nights of my life and best experiences I've ever had on stage. And it's kind of funny because, I mean, I have great experiences touring with Saosin. Those will always be the shows that I remember. Mm-hmm. But there's something about playing with someone you look up to and singing a song that you loved with that person that doesn't compare to anything that you could do alone. I love singing the songs that I write, but playing with Anthony was by far one of the best experiences of my life. And, you know, but the same goes for like Taking Back Sunday. Like, I got to sing a whole set with Adam and just standing on the side of the stage, or, you know, on one side of the stage, him on the other, and us going back and forth, you know, singing Cute Without the E and 180 by Summer, like those were songs that I listened to in high school. That's what got me into music. And the same thing happens with Anthony. Like, he got me into pursuing my dream, and that's one thing that, standing on stage with either of those guys and talking about Anthony, like, it's just, there's nothing that I think will ever compare to being able to do that. And it's such an honor to be able to do that, and for us to be able to show kids, like, hey, we don't hate each other. Because for the longest time, kids were like, I wonder if they hate each other.
Sure.
And all this stuff. And hearing that Anthony, and I read that article, obviously, being a fan of his, that, like, whenever he talks and mentions anything about the Saosin era, it opens my eyes up to what he was writing about and what he was going through during the time period. So, like, songs like I Can Tell make more sense. Songs like Mookie's Last Christmas make way more sense to me. And, if a fan of that era of Saosin, or a fan of Saosin in general, doesn't know, go read up on what he talks about in his interviews, because what he talks about is legitimately what these songs are really about. And and that has been one thing that I feel like is in my advantage, having to sing them every night, that now it's more personal to me, because now I understand what he was in, and what he was what position he was in his life, and what he was talking about. It makes way more sense to me to be able to stand on stage and just go, okay, like, I know what this song is really about now. And I've never really had that conversation with him, like, yo, what is 7 years about? Because he'll honestly tell you, I don't even know. Like, he's said that a bunch to me. He's like, I don't know. And he said that a bunch in interviews. Like, I have no idea what that song is about. It was chopped up, and that's really what happened. Bo just sat there, recorded Anthony being Anthony, and then just chip, snipped up the song, and then made the song, so Anthony was just singing words and phrases, and then Bo kind of created 7 years and the whole translating the name EP. So there's certain lines that mean different things to Anthony, and that mean things to Anthony, and that's just, like I said, one thing that the more I talk to him, and the more I'm his friend, so to speak, the more I learn about, like, what he really went through with this band, because it's still, like, some of the same things are still reoccurring, like, it's just, we're a very difficult group of guys to sit down and actually, like, create music and actually be around, So,
well, I don't want to make the whole interview like let's make this the Anthony Green interpretation interview, because there is the present, but again, like I said, I found it fascinating, the relationship you have with him, and and obviously you're right, there are those traditionalists out there, those fans. Anthony, when he did the podcast that I did with him last year, he said the funny thing is, I've been out of the band longer than I was in it at this point, and he's like, and a lot of people think it's the other way around, that I was in this band for 7-10 years or something, and it wasn't, it was just a small blip in time, and there are fans out there that are still go back and forth in the message boards and stuff that, well, it was better with blah, blah, blah. But the best one I read was, somebody wrote, Anthony's better with Circa, and Cove fits Saosin better than Anthony ever did, so get over it.
I've actually read that as well. Kind of crazy. I mean, I stopped looking at that kind of stuff, but you can't, like, you're right. You can't run away from it. You can't avoid it, because it seems like in every
lead singer. That's
every
a hard
single
person to replace.
Yeah, in every single topic that you click on to go into the message board, it's like, in one way, shape, or form, it's going to come back to the conversation's always going to revert back to, well, if Anthony didn't leave this band, they wouldn't suck so bad, or or some kid being like, screw you, man, like, you should just go listen to Circa and jerk off or whatever, like. Come on,
did you guys have a band ever get to that point where you were gonna? I know some bands have wanted to get past subjects, and so they've talked about actually having whoever was their administrator on their website, on their message board, delete topics.
No, man, like, it's not like that. Like, to me, that's just a stupid way of going about doing things. Like, let the kids talk. They're on our message board.
Yeah,
they're coming to our website.
Right.
They're talking on a Saosin website, so they obviously have something invested into the band, and whether they like the old stuff better than the last record
Right.
or anything that we've done, you know, they still care enough to come onto this website, come into this band's website and actually talk crap. So to me, what that says is that they're still giving us a shot maybe on this next record. You know what I'm saying? They're still trying to give Saosin a shot. And you know, the unfortunate side of things, because I live this every single day, is that Anthony's never coming back. You know, having to tell somebody that Anthony's never coming back isn't the toughest thing in the world to say, but to me, in talking about past subjects, it's like
Right.
it sucks. I agree. It sucks that he's never coming back because I've never seen him play. So I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, like,
Right.
if you really like Anthony a lot, like, which, you know, I think a lot of Saosin fans do, you have the best of both worlds now. You have
Right.
Saosin continuing to write Saosin's music just with a new vocalist, and you have Anthony writing with different musicians, and he's still the same vocalist. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, you have the best of both worlds, so how can you be bummed?
What was the best piece of advice that you got out of Gerard or anybody from those first few tours that you still utilize to your, you know, whether it's something you have to say to yourself when you start, as you say, spazzing out on stage, or I mean, is there anything
You
that
know,
you?
yeah, I don't think it's anything that I really think about when I'm on stage. I think it's more so when
Or even
when I step back into the
Yeah.
daily life and I think about and I truly start to think about what Anthony said to me. It's like, it must have taken a lot for him to say that, because, you know, he did invest a year and a half of his life to this band.
Mhm.
And he did try his hardest to overcome his fear of the growing success, and at the rate they were growing, it was just crazy. So I can completely understand why he may feel the need to run away from it, or feel the need to just be like, I'm not ready for this. I gotta take a step back, and you guys maybe, but I'm not. Like, I completely understand why that may lead somebody to feel like he's a little bit crazy, but, you know, I feel like when I truly step back and think about what he's told me, it's like, it must have taken a lot for him to be so honest, and for him to make something so special with the four other guys in this band and have to pass it on to somebody. Dude, that's like giving your baby away,
Right.
you know? And so I understand, and that makes me feel extremely proud to have somebody like Anthony, who's a friend of mine, give that to me, you know, and become a friend of mine through that gift. Same thing with Gerard, you know. It's not like I'm talking to Gerard every day, but the things that he said to me at that moment in time were, you know, in just complimenting me on what I have done up until that point. And I've literally done what I feel like is nothing up until that point. But the fact that he saw a certain amount of recognition, and I think half the reason is because he knew Anthony as well, that in him telling me, like, hey, you're a good singer, you know, like, these are some warm-ups that I do that may end up helping you, because I'd never taken a vocal lesson, and I truly didn't know what I was doing, like I said. So, you know, for him just to be like, you know, so kind to me on a tour where he really didn't have to be. Like, they were owning that tour. They were the biggest thing on the planet, at least in my mind at that time during that tour. Like, for him just to take a moment out of his day and sit me down and just, like, hang out with me for 15 minutes when I felt like I had nothing, when I felt like I had no one in my band that I could really talk to about it, because they're not, you know, Bo, Chris, Justin, they're not singers, you know, but Gerard is, and he not only is Gerard a great singer, but he's a great performer. So for him to be able just to sit me down and just be like, look, you're good. You have greatness in you. You just got to nurture it and let it come about. And, you know, it still to this day just means the world to me. And you know, I've unfortunately never told him thank you for that, but I have told Mikey, like, hey, can you just text your brother and tell him thank you? Like, I don't know if he even remembers what he said to me, but, like, I do, and it does mean the world to me, and it's just something that, you know, and it still happens to this day. Like, you know, it's weird because there's sometimes where it's like I see somebody else now having a bad time, and I'm just like, yo, man, calm down. You're gonna be great.
You're already passing it on.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of passing it on, and not that I have any right to pass it on, but, you know, I'm still learning just in the same way that Anthony's still learning, the same way that Gerard's still learning, and if you're one of those dudes that's just like hating constantly on that dude who's gaining small amount of success that you think sucks, then who are you to judge? I feel like I'm not one to judge. I feel like I'm one to encourage. It's like, dude, you're great. Go do your thing. And it's just it's not about who's in the bigger band or who's got the biggest ego or anything to me. It's just like,
right.
We're all doing the same thing and we're all doing what we love. So let's just love it, love every moment that we're doing it, and that's what I felt like they were passing on to me. Like, hey, you have the best job in the world. You have the greatest job in the world. You get to stand on stage and sing songs for a living. And if fame comes with that, or fortune, or whatever it is that you're looking for comes with it, great. If not, at least you still have the best job in the world. It's weird.
But there's a unfortunately, it's too true. But in any sort of a position of leadership, they always say that the boss is may have all the perks or what have you, but it's also the loneliest job.
Yeah.
Is it the same way for a lead singer of a band? Can it be?
I think for some lead singers,
yeah,
it can be an isolating thing. Like this band was not necessarily piece. Like this band was, if you look at it like this, like we were in many ways pieced together like a label would piece together like a pop band.
Mm-hmm.
They'd find the greatest singers that sound good together and they put them next to each other, and boom, you got a boy band. But there was no label involved. Bo pieced everybody together. He found Justin, and then he found he found Zach, or he took Zach away from Open Hand, and then they wrote some music and recorded it with Pat, the old Slayer drum tech and whatever, and then then they found Anthony, and Anthony flew out and recorded, and then once the record was, or the EP was done, they got Alex from Open Hand, and then the bass player quit, and then Chris came into the picture, and we weren't friends. We weren't friends growing up. Had it been a different story, like we're all 16-year-old kids playing in our garages, being the best friends in the world, like it would be a completely different story. But because we were in many ways pieced together like a boy band would be by Bo, it's taken a long time for us to learn how to work with each other, and we're still learning how to work with each other. And that's kind of the struggle, and that's in many ways what may end up holding us back, but it's what's going to give us the best outcome on every single record that we do, is because everybody's got an opinion and everybody's got the best opinion. And so when we kind of battle, you have to pick and choose your battles, and some you lose, some you don't. But in the end, you realize, like, if he's not happy, then this band doesn't exist. If everybody's not happy with at least something, then this band's not going anywhere, because we don't have anything to fall back. We don't have that long-term friendship to fall back on. So yeah, I've felt very isolated when it comes to being in a band. And but at the end of the day, I realize, like, I've spent the past 5 years of my life with 4 other dudes that I didn't know up until that time, and I've already invested this much amount of time with them, and in that amount of time I've had some of the best times of my life. So I'll never want to give this up, and I'll never want to give any of them up either, because even though I may end up hating Bo or Alex or Justin or Chris, at a moment in time, it all comes back to, what? Like, had it not been for them, I would never be here. And I feel like that's kind of how everybody is with this band. Like, even Bo, the person who pieced this band together with Justin as well, those guys probably feel the same way, And so through that, we're still learning how to deal with each other, and we're still learning how to be friends, and it's become a bonding experience throughout these past 5 years, and I feel like, yeah, these are my brothers. Like, these are the guys who, these are the guys who I want to get trashed at my wedding. I want them to be trashed. I want them just to be, like, out of their minds so I can have good wedding stories or whatever it be. Like, that's just, it's just one of those things that, like, these are my friends. These are my best friends. I have I really, I've in many ways I feel like I've ditched my friends at home in order to do what seemed like business at first with these other 4 dudes, and now it's just like it doesn't seem like that anymore. It's like I'm leaving this group of friends to go hang out with this group of friends, and through this group of friends I'm going to hang out with other group of friends, and it's just that's what it's kind of become. So the isolation doesn't feel as like the walls don't feel as tight anymore. It definitely feels like now it feels like, yeah, I can go and I can talk to Chris about certain things, and just like friends back at home, I wouldn't tell Chris certain things that I would tell Bo, and the same thing goes with Justin, and same thing goes with Alex. But we've had to learn that we do need to support each other, and we do need to be that band of brothers that we weren't before this band started. It's pretty
such
crazy.
conflict, and and part of the point of the whole podcast series is for musicians, how to be a band, and being musicians together, and so considering there's something very beautiful about when you have a bunch of conflicting forces trying to be pushed into this ball of creativity, you end up getting something a lot more. With so much, as much as a creative output is so much better than if you had a bunch of people that agreed with each other, and they were just like, so I'm just kind of wondering, like, you're trying to manage that conflict, you're trying to manage that disagreement. Yeah. So how do you not let that get out of hand? Is there somebody, or is there a trigger that somebody sits there and goes, time out, before we start getting into name calling, we have to do this, or we have to do a sit down, or we have to... You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because breakdowns in communication, besides a lack of money, is probably the second thing that breaks up bands.
Like I said, we've been a band for 5 years.
Yeah.
I've been in this band for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony was in the band for a year prior.
Yeah.
So these 4 guys have been together for a total of 6 years, and me for a total for 5. So through those years, yeah, we've learned that Chris handles the firing of the tour managers. He handles the business aspect. If somebody needs to be X'd, and cut out, it's like Chris is going to handle it because
that's his personality.
That's just his personality. That's just the way he handles it, And we've learned that's how we work. That's how we function. We know when Justin's getting out of hand. We know when Bo seems to be a little bit bummed out and he's acting like he's sick, or whatever it be.
Right.
It's like we know when to give each other space, and
that's important.
And that is important. Like the first tour, there was this time, and I just remembered this, and we haven't talked about, we brought this up like 6 months ago, like 2 months ago, because we just miraculously remembered it. Like the first tour, or right after the first, I think, Taste of Chaos we did Bamboozle out in Jersey. And this is it's really funny to look back on, but Bo got a little bit tipsy. And we're driving back in this rental van, and I'm sitting in the front seat, and Chris is driving, and Bo is just talking crap, like so much crap on me, but not in the sense of like it's mean and hurtful. It's just like, dude, shut up. Like if you don't, and this is where like the whole brotherly thing comes in. It's like, I was like, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna punch you right now. Like I'm gonna turn around, get out of my seat, and fight you in the car. And I kept looking at Chris. I'm like, I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna punch him in his face. And I knew it was half of it was, or more than half of it, probably all of it was just the liquor speaking, because he didn't even remember the next day. But I remember just like jolting and just being like, I'm gonna kill you. It was like a movie, where like the it was like Step Brothers when the dad gets really angry and is just like, I'm gonna kill you, you wrecked my boat. But that's how it was. And like, we've learned now through the years, like when the time comes to stop the pushing, and when it just becomes time, like, all right, I'm just gonna walk away and leave you for like a day, because I mean there'll be days where I won't talk to Alex, or like I won't talk to these, anybody in my band, and and the same goes for them. Like when you're around somebody, 290 days a year, 24/7, like that's crazy. And when you're having to sleep in the same hotel room with the same guys, it's like you really want to shoot yourself at times, and sometimes that aggression just gets taken out on the other person, and you just got to learn how to deal with it. And I think that's one of the things that where we're at now is we've actually learned how to deal with it. We're far past those times where I'm wanting to jump out of my seat and punch Bo in the back seat. It's like, it's crazy, but that's just what happens. Every band has their moments. Everybody, there's not one band like that will tell you like, yeah, we've had the perfect relationship. Like, right. There's not one person in a single band that'll be like, yeah, I've never thought about quitting. It's like, dude, it happened. Like, that's just what happens when you're stuck with these people. It's just like it gets to the point where you're like losing your mind. You're losing your mind. You want to hide, but it all comes back to what I was saying. Like, if it wasn't for these 4 dudes, I wouldn't have the greatest job on the planet. I wouldn't have the greatest job of, and being able to sing the songs that I love to sing. And that's just one thing that, again, I just appreciate so much, and being given the opportunity to be where I'm at.
Sure. I do want to talk about that record, the Howard Benson record, and then we'll take a second music break, and we'll just a couple more things. We'll talk about the next record, the future, and the music industry, and so we'll wrap this up. Relationships on the road. One of the things I was thinking about recently was, and I wonder, with the kind of struggles that you guys have had with each other, and the tensions that sometimes build up, and I know several bands that have gone through this, where the girls that they end up, or if they're a girl band member and they're dating a guy, or you could be the same person, I don't know, that they end up, they date a girl, and the girlfriend, as temporary as she may become, ends up becoming the one that the musician vents to about all their frustrations in the bands.
Happens with everybody.
Right. And then all of a sudden that relationship ends after 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah.
And now you times that by, traveling around the world. So now you times that maybe by 4 or 5 a year. So now you got 4 or 5 ex-girlfriends with all this dirt on the band and all the other band members. Oh. And it's like, how is that just going to happen? And or do you find yourself, Craig told me one time, he's like, when I don't want to say something to somebody that's in the media, but it's a friend, I call it media block. And so he shuts down on certain things. And so do you find yourself kind of doing that with girlfriends and stuff like that, or in relationships where there's a girlfriend block?
I've only had one relationship in this band. I'm on my second relationship right now. Which is probably the best thing in the world.
That's great.
So for me, the last girlfriend that I had, I actually met through the band. Mm. She came out on Warped Tour, the first Warped Tour that we did, for 7 days, and I was just like, you're cute, I want to hang out with you. Like, I'm just a big dork. You seem like you could put up with me being dorky. Like, where do you live? Like, let's hang out. And I ended up, that is true. Like, I had moments in that relationship, and I have moments in the relationship now where I'm like, I vent a lot to her, and I vented a lot to my last girlfriend, and that's just, it's a safe place. It's
sure.
You could vent about anything you want. They're never gonna get pissed. Or at least until the point where the girlfriend now, because of what's going on with the band and, having to get this record ready, having to get ready for Warped Tour, and, everything that revolves around the record. I'm talking like mixing, mastering, artwork, press, promotional shots, like the whole 9 yards. There have been times where, I feel like out of that relationship, I've kind of gained... Out of the last relationship, I've kind of gained a perspective of like how I want to treat any girlfriends
really
from now on, and she's just awesome. She'll be like, okay, for the next 8 hours, you're not allowed to talk about Saosin. And it's like,
really?
Thank you for saying that. I don't want to talk about him. Let's talk about anything else. But it's just my life. Like, that's just what it becomes. But I mean, it goes the same for the guys in the band. With the last relationship, there were nights where I was on the road where that was where my whole focus was. And the dudes in the band saw it, and they're like, they would pull me aside and be like, dude, this chick's screwing not only our careers, but your career personally. And you investing the amount of time per day that you're investing right now is ridiculous. You're on the road. You're supposed to be having fun. You're supposed to be working. And, you know, you're making poor decisions right now. And everything, like, and we've done this with, you know, we've done this to each other. And it's happened to me more so than others. I was like, it happened with Bo. But I mean, it happens on different levels and on different occasions with different band members. So, you know, it happened to me with her, my ex-girlfriend, a lot. And, you know.
Where you become obsessed with
where I'd just become, the little things became arguments. And the arguments became huge fights, and we both ended up being like, what are we fighting over? I don't even remember. And then I'd call, you know, 30 minutes after, and she'd be asleep, and I'd be like, hey, I just want to apologize. She'd be like, why'd you wake me up? And be like, I'm sorry. I just want to apologize. That's all. Just quit saying you're sorry. And, you know, that it happens to every band, and it happens to every band guy, whether you're venting to your girlfriend about your band or you're venting to your band about your, you know, you don't ever vent to your band about your girlfriend until they come to you and are like, it's affecting you and it's affecting us and it's really frustrating and we don't know what to do. And yeah, there are just some things that you can't talk to your band about, and some things that you can't talk to your girlfriend about, you know, when it comes to band stuff. It's just, I'm not going to tell her everything that my band does on the road. And though that may sound like, you know, that may sound really bad, like anytime that a girlfriend comes out, it's like, I don't even want to be around, because I'm so afraid that they're going to get a picture of the life that we lead on the road, where it's just like, come on, when you get 5 dudes together that are like brothers, it's like, you're going to see, hear, smell a lot of different things that you typically don't ever want to witness in your life. So, especially as a girl. So, anytime my girlfriend would come out on the road, and anytime now that my girlfriend is going to come out on Warped Tour, I'm like, best behavior. And if you're not on best behavior, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to dump this Dr. Pepper on your face when you sleep, and I'm going to punch you in the nuts. Like, you know, we've learned how to, we're experienced enough to know, like, you know, what girls to steer clear from when it comes to relationships, and what to do when you're in a relationship. And it's still going to be a growing experience, because, you know, I'm not married, and I don't know when I'm going to get married. And if I ever do get married while I'm in a band, it's still going to be a growing and learning experience.
Sure.
You know, it's just kind of a complicated, weird world to be a part of, especially being a band guy and having a girlfriend, because they're always, you know, many girls who don't know what it's like to travel. And thank heavens my girlfriend does know what it's like to travel and be away from your boyfriend. They think that every night's a big orgy, and that girls are constantly on your bus and in your bunk and all this stuff. And it's just like, we're not a hair metal band anymore. Like, those bands are not around.
Right.
That stuff never happens anymore, you know? And it's just like, come on. Like,
I don't know about anymore. Maybe not with you guys.
Maybe not with us. But I mean, for a long time, we were that band. Like, we were the band that other bands would talk about. Like, you don't want to tour with Saosin. They're crazy. They're all about partying and chicks. And
even though like, 2 of you guys don't drink or smoke, supposedly.
Yeah. It was crazy. So it was just like, dude, we're not, like, we're looking at each other going like, is that what your band talks about us like? Like, we're not. We're nothing like that. But for whatever reason, the persona was just like, that's what Saosin does. And we're like, dude, you got it all wrong, man. It was crazy. But
So
what can you do?
That first record with Howard Benson, the full length, it just I could get into the details of the making of that thing and all that, and a lot of that's already been kind of covered out there on the internet. But I mean, he worked with My Chem and all these very powerful bands, and he's made a bunch of them very big.
Yeah.
But you said something in that story that Scott did for issue 226 of AP, and you said something that he made sure that we weren't selling out.
Yeah.
How so?
I mean, if you go to our MySpace, you can check out the making of that record. It's already up there and everything. So for those of you who haven't done that, you can go do that after you finish listening to this. But you know, a lot of people in and around the music industry, when they look at a band like Saosin and what we've accomplished before actually working, you know, with a label and putting out a record, they might have gained the perspective after hearing that we were going to work with Howard Benson that it's over. Like, the cool factor about Saosin is gone. You know, he did All American Rejects, he did My Chemical Romance, he did, you know, I'm trying to think of all this stupid bands, Hoobastank, and you know, there's so many more.
Motorhead and everything.
And everything more. But I mean, to me, looking at Blindside and looking at Motorhead and looking at like his catalog, he's actually done some really cool stuff.
Sure.
And he's kept those bands cool. But then again, as is with every other producer, you know, he did The Reason with Hoobastank, and Hoobastank's never recovered from that song. You know, like that can be the best decision you've ever made or the worst decision you've ever made. So in talking with him before the record started, we're like, we want to keep everything about this band cool. And that means fast drum fills with a lot of things going on, a lot of guitar riffs, a lot of, you know, high vocals, a lot of the things that we had seen prior to me joining the band. We wanted to keep it cool.
Okay.
So that's what we did, and he was really good in letting Alex just shred the drums, and then letting me, because he was only really there for drums and vocals. So you know, he let Bo, Justin, and Chris just basically do whatever they want. You know, with the engineer there to kind of guide them a little bit. And you know, I don't feel like I ever sold out on that record. The only song that you could ever think of being a sellout song is "You're Not Alone." And to me, when I first heard "You're Not Alone" back, I was sitting in his control room in which he would record me, and he was like, "Check this out." And he left the room, and I was like almost in tears. Like, the song impacted me, and I was the one recording it, and I was like, how is this is going to impact everybody that hears it. And yeah, sure, it may come across as being a sellout ballad pop song, but the meaning and everything behind that song is so moving that you can't really deny that that's just a great song all around. And we had no worry that it was going to turn out like The Reason. You know, and not that that's a bad song. It's a great song. And the reason it did so well is because it's a great song and so many people attached themselves to it. You know, we weren't worried that it was going to turn out like that because it sounded cool and everything else surrounding that song on the record was cool. So, you know, he definitely let us just be us, which kept Saosin from being that sellout band that was, you know, having songs created for them and, you know, written and manufactured in a way, because there's a lot of that going on in the industry, and you would never notice.
So, and to kind of wrap I thought the best way to wrap up that records period is the punknews.org review, and the first two words of that review for that record are Anthony who?
Yeah, I mean.
Because it showed.
That's kind of a dick thing to say.
No, but I mean, you know, but it shows that the band had moved forward and that you were solidified, and it gave you a very good review. I mean, it gave you, you know, good props. So it was like you had come into your own now, and you were set.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly like as much as like I wish that kind of stuff wasn't said because it just stirs up more conversation about Anthony.
But you know what I'm saying, though.
I do know what you're saying.
Like
I read that as well, and I was like, you know what? That's awesome. That's awesome that somebody
says it's
in the industry says it's, says it's great, and says that Saosin has come into their own with Cove as their lead singer and whatnot. Like, it's really flattering. It's really cool, and it made me feel great. And I think that again is one of the turning points of me feeling comfortable being the lead singer and being the frontman of this band.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I can't play anything new from the new record. So this second music break, why don't we do this? Why don't you something off of that first record? Tell me the song that let me see here. Tell me that I usually say this one, and it seems to come up with some pretty interesting answers. Tell me the song that's usually misinterpreted.
You're Not Alone.
Really? I was trying to do something so we wouldn't end up with that one, just for difference.
No, I mean,
but go ahead.
But that song has been misinterpreted by a lot of people, and
you wrote that in a closet.
I wrote that in a closet
at 4 a.m. in the morning, supposedly.
4 a.m. in the morning. I definitely did. In the Oakwood Apartments in LA, which is where a lot of famous musicians have stayed. Nirvana stayed there as well. Kind of cool, just driving up there, being like, they drove in here, like it's the coolest thing. But yeah, that song was very misinterpreted by a lot of people, and it's all because of one line. At the end of the first verse, he says he has nothing left to live for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wrote it that way because I have felt that way, but I've never acted upon those feelings. And I know a lot of people have been in my position that have felt that way. Like, we have nothing left to live for when you're down and depressed. And when it comes to the song, the chorus is therapy. The first verse is about me. The second verse is about my sister, and in kind of connecting where my sister was at in her life. She was at at that age. When I was at that age, I was going through the same stuff as her. So it was just like, basically like a song that I felt like both her and I could connect to. That's actually the first time I've said that. But she doesn't even have green eyes or anything, but it's just like the same thing that goes with the first verse. It's like she was feeling those same feelings, and she still, everybody still does every now and then. Like, I just hope that when kids feel like that, if they are a fan of our band, and even if they're not and they're listening to this, it's like, I would hope that at any given time when you're down and you're at your lowest of low, like, that's a song that can really uplift you, and that can really bring you back to reality and make you appreciate your life just a little bit more, appreciate something just a little bit more. So that's a song that got really misinterpreted on the last record. And then, a lot of the songs got misinterpreted, but it's because we wrote that record the same way that Bo and Anthony and the dudes wrote Translating the Name. It was just kind of really ambiguous and sporadic, and random lines just pieced together. So, except for that song, that's one song that I just had complete control over, and Howard Benson just produced me on that track, and it wasn't like working with anybody else in the band. So that song did really get misinterpreted by a lot of people, and yeah.
You said a key word earlier, awkward. You felt awkward sometimes, and I just kind of wonder, so the second song, why don't we do this? Out of any of the stuff that you've recorded, except I can't play the new record.
Yeah,
because I've heard parts of it. And I like it a lot. Not the song that you like the most.
Yeah,
but the song that you're most proud of. You're like what you were able to get out of yourself.
I never wanted, like, from the last record.
Anything that we've got out on audio form.
I never wanted to. I never wanted to was a song that I wrote It was originally demoed as a song called No Angel, and Bo sang on it, and then the demo just changed like 8 to 10 times up until recording it with Howard Benson. It was the last demo, it was the last drum track that we did with Howard. And I kind of helped arrange the song. I was like, hey, what if it started like this, and then one here, and then one here, and then everybody else kind of put their input in and was like, okay, cool. Because it had no structure. It was just 5 parts, and it went from one to the next, and then it ended. There was nothing that repeated, and there's no repetition of the song. There's no chorus. And so we picked the best part out of the demo and made it the chorus, and it came out as I Never Wanted To, and that song was basically about two different experiences that I had where people's words impacted me so greatly that I just had to write about it. The second verse was about an experience that I had with my ex-girlfriend where she told me something that I absolutely did not want to hear at the time. And I wrote that second verse literally like on the drive home from Orange County to the Oakwoods. And I was trying to beat the sun rising. Like I was just hauling up the 5 freeway, or the 5 freeway up to the 101 and then to the Oakwoods to try and beat the sun and get in bed before the sun came up. And so that second verse is about an experience. What she said something to me that night, and we stayed up all night talking. She just said something that really impacted me on the drive home. So I wrote that kind of on the drive home. The first verse was about something that my mom said, and the chorus was actually something about what my mom said. I came home from tour once, and as is everything in life, like you change and you're continually growing. And my mom felt like she had lost her son in many ways. And I don't know if that's how she feels anymore, but every single time I listen to that song or I sing that song live, the feelings that I get from her, especially because, I mean, my mom's been probably one of the biggest impacts of my life. You know, her and my dad are just pretty much everything. Family is everything to me. So, sure. You know, for her to say something like that, to where it took me from an awesome tour and a super high and like feeling great about life and the band and everything, and it just went like down into the ground. Like she just smushed me. You know, it just hit me so hard that I was just like, for the next month or so, that's all I could think about. And it ended up making the demo.
A sense of remorse?
She just said it like, you know, like any parent would, like when their child seems to be straying, it's like, you're straying, but I understand you got to make your own decisions, and I'm really disappointed. You know, it's like a disappointment thing, and you're just like, no kid wants to disappoint their parents unless you truly hate your parents, which I don't get, unless they've done something extremely terrible to you. But I've never had that happen to me, fortunately enough. So when she said what she said, it was just like, it made me reevaluate. It made me stay up nights. It made me go to the beach at 5 a.m. and sit there and just look at the ocean and be like, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing with my life? And that's just one song that I feel like every single time I sing it, the feelings come back, the emotions come back. And, you know, the chorus, it's like, I never wanted to hear all the things you told me. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory, you know? So... pretty deep, man. Why do you got to get me all deep right now? Like,
keep drinking Dr. Pepper. Yeah. I'll get more out of you.
I told you this stuff's like crack. I'll keep talking.
The new record, working with Butch Walker, John Feldman, and Matt Squire. What were the things that you learned about yourself from working with each one of these guys?
I learned a lot, you know. I think the more I work with different people, the more I learn that I am actually a better singer than I think I am. You know, I'm not one to be like, I'm the greatest, I'm the end all be all. I'm Elvis. You know, I'm not. That's not me. You know, I still think I'm growing. I still think I will always be growing. But the more I work with, I mean, Butch Walker and John Feldman are two extremely great songwriters / singers, in my opinion. You know, they both have different styles of going about doing their thing, but you know, Butch taught me a lot about just the way that my throat works. And there was another guy who I think we should involve in this. He helped on a couple songs. This dude Jeremy. And he used to be in this band called Moments in Grace, and he's now in this band called Savio. He also taught me a lot too about the proper way to sing. He has this very operatic, opera sounding voice, and he taught me a lot about, like, you know, facial movements and all this stuff, and that's kind of what what Butch did as well, in getting out the performance and in putting me in the place that I need to be in. And Butch taught me a lot, actually a lot more, not a lot about singing per se, as much as he did about focusing in on the lyrics and making sure that everything's cohesive from front to back. John Feldman taught me a lot about the performing aspect of things, because you listen to any record that he's done and there's a lot of great vocal performances.
Yeah.
And that's something that Howard Benson does really well. He gets a lot of great performances out of you, because it sucks. Music, being a singer is you are, I think Adam from Taking Back Sunday said it this way once to me. He's like, you're 20% singer and you're 80% performer. But when you're in the studio, it's reversed. You're 80% singer and 20% performer, and so getting adjusted to recording is a lot harder than it is to getting adjusted to being a performer and standing on the stage. And so John taught me how to ride the line of being a performer and yet being a great singer. And you know, not only did he teach me a lot about that, but he's just insane when it comes to vocal, like overdubs and stuff, when it comes to like the backup, like woos and yes, and, you know, all the harmonies, like the weird, you know, there's a lot of like weird answer back type of harmony things that are on the 3 John Feldman songs that are just like, they make the songs better. They make the songs, like, they enhance them 100%. It's crazy. But, you know, that's just, everybody has their own different style of going about doing things. And, you know, it's just being a frontman and being a singer. It's awesome to be able to work with so many people, because you get to pick up what that person's leaving off from you. So it's pretty cool.
Did you, there is a quote, you probably, since you've been saying you already read everything I've been saying tonight, as much as it's been on the internet. I think you live on the internet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you read all the message boards?
No, not anymore.
There's no way.
Barely.
You've been reading everything?
But I've heard that stuff before.
All right, fine.
Whether it come from you or come from my parents.
Oh,
yeah.
So they live on the message boards.
Unfortunately. My mom will do checkups every now and then. She'll just be like...
She has your name on a Google search?
Oh, man, she needs to stop doing that.
Google alert?
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Did she respond back for you?
She's actually on our message board. She's done it several times. I don't know if she does that anymore. It's pretty sweet. She doesn't do it for me. She just does it herself. Like, you know.
What does she say? What happened?
I don't know. She said, well, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of one thing that she said before, you know. She just responds to kids that are asking her questions, like, say, oh, Mom, do you know what this is all about? And she'd be like, nope, but I'll talk to Cove about it. And I'm just like, I'll read it before she talks to me about it. I'm like, I'm not going to respond, because I know what you're going to do. You're going to run back to that stupid message board and you're going to post what I say. And no, I'm not going to please your need to please everybody else. No. But I mean, she's great. I can't.
You need to have your mom talk to your publicist.
Yeah, I can't
funnel all questions through him.
No, I can't deny. My mom's a great lady, and she loves staying.
No, I was just messing.
She loves checking in.
But there was a quote. It's just from a kid, it was an interview that was online, and the quote was, "As much as I love this band, taking 3 years to release a new album is ridiculous. This thing had better be fucking amazing." So
I haven't read that, but I've heard that a lot, and that's the pressure we feel.
So is there, and I'm sure that you've spoken about it with the label, and the labels try, you know, from a publicity and marketing and so forth, but, you know,
they're in the other
Shh, they're quiet. We love them. And they're very good people.
They are.
Internet, the world today, the fickleness of everything, you don't have 15 minutes of fame anymore. You got 3.5 minutes. Is there you said there was pressure. I mean, is there some thinking did the generation already move on to the next bands of now? Is everybody all about 303 and we're going to come back and it's going to be like what Thursday just went through? Where you kind of come back and everybody's like, yeah, and then nobody buys.
I don't really worry about that stuff. I don't think it's really in my place to worry about that stuff. It's all I'm doing is trying to make the best record I possibly can. So, if fans decide to move on, moving on's dumb. It's they're gonna come back. They're gonna download the record illegally, whether you like it or not. And if they dig this record equal to or to more than they did the last record, which I have to say I think you will if you actually check it out. I don't think the here today gone tomorrow is really prevalent with this band. I think we're not to sound like I hate sounding like a douche, but and sounding cocky, but I think what we do and the reason that we take so long is because no other bands take long. What they do is they go into the studio, they take a month to write and record a record, they put it out, they have 2 good songs, and then they tour for a year, and then they go back and do the same thing.
Right.
So by us taking a year off, it's giving us the amount of time that we feel like we need to make the best record that we possibly can. Metallica, Black Album, took a year off to write and record. During the writing, they were recording. It happened with so many bands back in the day. Metallica, Guns N' Roses, all these bands that have albums that transcend time took a year
Sure.
or if not longer to record and write their record. And so, I feel like that it's crazy that we've actually been able to take off a year and not have to get a job or anything. But I think that just kind of speaks up for what we've achieved with the success of our last record and everything that happened behind it, because a lot of people don't know that our record label fell apart halfway through. We lost everybody, and yet we continued to achieve and have great success.
Sure.
So with this record, now that we have a record label that's stable, that's behind us, that we know isn't going to be gone tomorrow,
Right.
or halfway through the second single, that we're in a great position. We're not in a bad position, and I don't think anybody out there is going to forget that. That's going to put us, like you said, we're not. I don't think we're in a position like Thursday. And I love that band, and I hate that sounds like I'm talking mad crap, but I'm not. I love everything they've done. I've always celebrated everything that they've done, and I want to be able to do what they've done and put out 4 full-length records. That's awesome. We're only on our 2nd, and I feel like everybody that's surrounding us in our team is equally as excited about what we're doing and is ready to jump on board and really attack this record as hard as they know that it needs to be pushed, because it is a great record. And I don't think any of us really sweat it, but we do stay up nights. There is an added amount of pressure because we do have a lot of fans who have waited 3 years for us to put out a record, because every other band's putting out a record every other year, and we've taken 3.
Right.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous in their minds, because they're typically used to having a new record every other year. So I think that they're still sticking around. If that kid's still saying that, he's obviously waiting, and he's obviously going to wait a couple more months for it to come out, because it's going to come out, in probably September. So why not, just continue to wait. We're going to have new music for people to hear soon. And, I'm not sweating it. We're just trying to make the songs as best as possible and sound as awesome as possible. We want kids to, when they hear the record, not only be stoked on the songs themselves, but the way that it sounds. So, if it takes us up until Warped Tour to actually finish the record, then fine. That's okay. But we just want this record to be as amazing as you want it to be. And, not that that's important to us that you actually appreciate it, because we don't write music for people. We write it for ourselves. And if you like it, cool. Every band should do that. No band should ever write for somebody else. I'm just saying that.
No. Sure. Last fall, you put out the Great EP, which was sold on tour. You did 3,000 limited edition CDs.
Yeah.
Autographed. And the rest, and it was sold on iTunes after otherwise. And do you think that this, and it's almost a question for your publicist too, but do you think that this is the last hard case CD release you're going to do? Like, is it going to all be digital from here on out as much as the future? Because, partly of what you guys did with that Great EP is very contemporary now. A lot of bands are starting to do that.
I think the reason we did that, though, is because it was an EP. If we were a band like what we were, or what, if Saosin was like what we were when Anthony was in the band, and we could release the tracks online for free and, give them away, put them on iTunes later. If you want to go buy it off iTunes, then great. I think the biggest thing that helped Saosin back in the day was the internet, because they were giving it away for free. And then once they went on tour, everybody wanted to buy the record because it was only $5.
Right.
Nowadays, you can't sell your record for $5 on the road. We can't do that. We would only make like 25 cents if we were able to do that. So
it's important to know that.
It is important, and it's frustrating that is the case, but at the same time, like this record and every other full-length feature coming from this band, we will always want to have artwork with. We will always want to have something along the lines of, in the packaging to where it's enticing and it's very interesting for you to look at visually, and it goes along and coincides with the record, because that's really the only reason personally that I go out and buy records. I want to see what they're doing in the artwork, and I want to see if they add anything cool that I've never seen before. And that's the reason why I go buy deluxe editions from bands now, or I try to get a deluxe edition from, like Under Oath and Taking Back Sunday for free if I possibly can, because they're homies.
Right.
Like, if that's the case, if I can get one from them, I'll trade them mine, when it comes out, because everybody's trying to do different things to try and make it more appealing for somebody to go out and actually pay the $40 to get like a whole package, or or $15 at Best Buy for a record. And I'm hoping that it doesn't all go digital, because having a hard copy of something is so cool. I have recently got into vinyl and into buying, all my dad sold his record collection, so I'm trying to find all of his old records again and trying to piece them all together so that I can, whenever he gets, whenever he feels like he's in trouble from the 3 women living at home, and if their cycles meet up, he's gonna have to come stay at my house, if you know what I'm saying. I want to have those records for him to put on and be like, I think
that's what they meant by 2012, right?
Freedom. Yeah. No, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's. I don't think that CDs will ever go away, because you have to have something that's tangible that you can hold in your hands and look at the lyrics and look at the artwork while you're listening to the record. That was what was so cool about when Dark Side of the Moon came out. I wasn't even born, but for me now, I have 2 copies of it, and every single time I put it in on the record player, I'm just like, this is so awesome. This experience that I'm having right now with this record is so freaking cool, because that's what kids did back then, and that's what I feel like is missing now. Kids aren't doing that. They're not calling up their friends being like, "Hey, I got the new record, come over and hear it."
Right.
They're being like, "I got the new record, you want to come over and burn it?" It's like, come on, dude, sit down. Like, pay attention. Listen. It's frustrating as a musician, but I mean, that's just what happens. That's just the way that the game is kind of turned into. It sucks, but I think we'll always have a hard copy of a full length, and the digital thing we might just do with EPs. And I think that's all you really should do.
And it may actually go that way. So
I hope not.
Well, yeah, you just never know. Or vinyl will all come back again, or cassettes will come back.
Which would rule. Either or.
Cassettes.
Maybe not cassettes so much, but vinyl would be cool.
Last question. I usually end with this. So here we go. It's a little bit. Tell me about the time you almost died on tour.
Oh, it's a laughing thing now. We all laugh about it. It's great. In Canada on the first Taste of Chaos, and we're driving through Saskatoon, and we pull up to this gas station, and this dude's like, we get out, and we're like, so what's the deal? We hear like the roads are closed, whatever. We're in a van, mind you. Everybody else, Killswitch Engage, The Used, My Chemical Romance, they're all on buses, so they have nothing to worry about. Well, they do. It's still crazy, but it's not as crazy as being in a Sprinter van driving down, -30 with like 4 inches of ice on the road. So we pull over, we talk to this guy, and he's like, yo, yeah, it's going to get crazy. Basically what will happen is you'll come out of town, this huge valley will open up, the ice will hit, like, it's going to be nuts. Just take it easy when you're driving through there, and you should be able to get to the next city, which is where everybody was going to pull over and stay the night until they cleaned the roads. So we're driving, and it seems like the city's just never ending. This valley is not coming. And out of nowhere, the valley hits, and it's just like nothing. Like, all you see for miles upon miles to your left is white, and all you see to the right is white. You don't see any other color. And in front of you, it's all white, and, the little gray patch of road that's covered in 4 inches of ice. So we hit a bump, and then he's like, oop. Our driver, who was our sound guy at the time, was like, oops, sorry, guys. We're driving. And he said sorry again, and all of us are just like, why does he keep saying he's sorry? And he's like, guys, the van, once we had hit this bump and like it had turned to the left a little bit, which means our trailer's now facing like, I don't know, like in a V. Our van's facing to the left, sliding on the road, and our trailer's at a V. And he corrects, and he pulls the van over to the right a little bit, but he had never driven on ice before, so he corrected too hard, and it ended up pulling the trailer around, creating another V,
the
opposite direction. So he corrects even harder to the left, and by that time, the trailer had pulled our van around, and we're now like heading passenger side first, going straight with our trailer. We're looking at our trailer, which is now like in front of us. The way we were driving, it's now in front of us, and we're sliding off the opposite side of the road. And we end up sliding off the road. Our van tilts up at like, I don't know, what is that? Like a 35-degree angle? I don't even know. Like, it just ends up tipping up. So I'm laying down on the ground. My feet are at the sliding door, and I'm now standing. I'm standing in our van, and our sliding door's at my feet. And I'm like, what just happened? And then the van falls back down. I'm on my back. What had happened was that the trailer pulled. When the trailer hit the embankment, it rolled 3 times. And luckily, most of our gear was in the Taste of Chaos trucks, and we only had like 2 or 3 broken guitars, but all of our merch was in there. So for like 3 shows, we didn't have any merch, and it was the biggest bummer because, we could have easily sold and made up for a lot of the damages that happened. But our van actually made it back to California with the paper, like the transmission blew, and the guy who fixed it left the transmission manual inside the transmission, then covered it up like an idiot. So like 6 months later, we're in Vegas and the transmission blows, and we're like, what the hell's going on? Take it in, and this guy gives us the transmission manual all covered in transmission fluid. It's just burnt to crap, and we're just like, that's from Canada. Like, what the hell? And I don't know, like our we had to leave our trailer there. Killswitch Engage passed us and then turned around and picked us up. And the rest of the tour was just crazy. Everybody on that tour was just like, dude, we passed your van. It was nuts. We thought you were dead. You know, and everybody got there. We were like one of the first bands to get to this hotel, which was dope, by the way. It had a freaking pool, and it had a huge slide thing indoors. Awesome. It was like 90 degrees. It was so worth it. But anyways, yeah, it was just crazy, that whole time period. And, you know, meanwhile, I'm still like starstruck of being on tour with The Used, who put out, in my mind, like probably one of the greatest records of my life. You know, and My Cam's blowing up, and Killswitch Engage is the heaviest thing I've ever heard in my entire life at the time. And I don't know, man, it was crazy just to be like starstruck in this hotel on Killswitch Engage's bus driving, and just everything happening so quick. Like, I'm just reliving it right now with my eyes closed. It's so funny to laugh about, because our tour manager was this little Asian guy, and we had bunks built in the back. And they were separated like beds, like bunk beds, like you go into the bus. But they were wood, and when the van tilted on its side, our tour manager was on the higher side, so he slipped off in the middle, and the bunk, like, broke and barely missed piercing him, like, through his chest, and it was just like...
Oh, man.
So we came so close just, like, to dying, but now we all just look back and we're like... Sweet, we almost died. That's so funny. It's like, why am I laughing about this? I don't even know.
So the name of the new record is?
Can I say it?
Can we get a thumbs up? You coming from the publicist?
No.
Damn.
No, you know, it's not. We've
Can we get a release date?
We've decided. Let me tell you.
Yes, we can give a release date.
We can give a release date.
Yes,
September 8th.
Okay.
It's going to be the release of.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
And then you're going to be on Warped Tour?
Yeah, we're going to be on Warped Tour. The name is very close to being finalized.
Okay.
I've had this name for about a year now. I'm not going to say it, but when I do, I promise to...
Mormon in the Middle?
It's called Mormon in the Middle. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you guys will... There we go. I was trying to think of that. Thank you so much. You guys will be the first to know. Trust me, I will hit you up and be like, it's called...
and then
so close, right?
So close. Well, I'm really, really happy for you. I think this is great. That the new record does sound great. You have a 7.5-minute masterpiece on there, a little rock opera thing.
It's awesome. You can actually go hear it on YouTube if you want.
That's right, because you guys played at Bamboozle.
We played it at Bamboozle. The song is called Fireflies. But unfortunately, like that part I was telling you in the song, it kind of dies out, and the girl filming it thought that the song was over, so she turned it off.
Oh, because there's a second part that comes back.
There's a second part that comes back, and she's like, underneath it, it's like, oh man, what sucks is I totally posted this video, and I didn't get the second half of the song. So you get to hear the first half of the song on YouTube if you go check it out. The song's called Fireflies. But
and a little bit of advice to any future journalist: if you are going to interview Cove and you want him to talk, just get him a bottle of Dr. Pepper.
This is factual.
And he's I got 2 here, so I could have made a 4-hour one out of this and gotten some really good shit.
I'm so sorry for keeping you guys up, man. It's midnight. I feel like a douche.
It's okay. I always run long interviews. Really, take care of yourself, and thank you for coming back. And
anytime, man.
And you're somebody that we'll have to do part 3 sometime.
Please, let's do it as soon as the record comes out. Seriously,
that
would be awesome. Just get grilled about every single song.
We'll talk about girlfriends again.
Yeah.
AP podcasts are recorded at Lava Room Recording Studio in Cleveland, Ohio, a New York City quality studio at Cleveland prices. Check out www.lavaroomrecording.com. For more information on Alternative Press Magazine, go to www.altpress.com. The podcast engineer is John Walsh. Post-production assistance from Rob Hortensi. I'm Mike Shea, and this is all my fault. You can reach me directly at www.myspace.com/MikeSheaAP. That's SHEA like the stadium, AP.